I always believed that families were built on trust, but that belief started to shatter the moment my stepmother entered our lives. My name is Ayan, and when I was 14, everything I thought I knew about home, love, and honesty began to fall apart. My mom passed away when I was just 10, and for a long time, it was just me and Dad. We were close, like best friends more than father and son. But 2 years later, he met Sanaa. She was beautiful, graceful, and charming, at least on the surface. She treated me nicely at first, always smiling, always trying to win me over with compliments or by cooking something I liked. I tried to accept her. I really did. I knew Dad deserved happiness, and I thought maybe I could share his with someone else. But then, things changed. Subtle things. My favorite snacks would disappear from the kitchen. The ones I kept hidden in my drawer were gone too. I'd hear her whispering on the phone late at night, and when I walked in, she'd quickly hang up. Still, I said nothing. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe I just missed my mom and didn't want anyone else taking her place. Then it happened. My school gave me an award for top performance, and my dad gave me a reward, a crisp 2,000 rupees note as pocket money. He handed it to me with a proud smile and said, "You've earned it, champ." I kept it in the secret spot inside my wardrobe, tucked in an old storybook under my shirts. It was safe, or so I thought. A few days later, I reached for it, planning to buy a book I had been wanting. My heart dropped. The envelope was still there, but it was empty. Not even a rupee inside. I searched everywhere, my drawers, my backpack, under the bed, even behind the cupboard. Nothing. Panic hit me. My father had trusted me with that money, and I felt responsible. Had I dropped it? Did I lose it at school? But then, a tiny doubt crept into my mind, one that I didn't want to believe. Could it be Sanaa? No, I told myself. That's ridiculous. She's family now. But the more I thought, the more things didn't add up. Just 2 days before, I heard her on the phone talking about needing money. She didn't work, and Dad had recently mentioned he was keeping a tight budget. And then I remembered something. Sanaa had entered my room to put away laundry that morning, even though I always did it myself. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I didn't confront her, not yet. Instead, I decided to test it. The next week, Dad gave me another 1,000 rupees for helping him with a presentation. This time, I didn't hide it in my room. I kept it in my math book inside my school bag. Again, 2 days later, it was gone. I was careful. No one else knew. The bag never left the house. It only pointed to one person. But still, I needed proof. I told my best friend, Samir, and he suggested putting a small camera in my room. We couldn't afford a real one, but we got clever. We placed my old phone on top of the cupboard, camera facing the room, and I told Sanaa loudly that I had saved 3,000 rupees now and would buy myself a smartwatch. The bait was set. That evening, I pretended to go outside but stayed nearby, watching from the window. She entered my room. She opened my drawer, then the cupboard. My heart pounded as I waited. The next morning, I checked the footage. There it was, clear as daylight, Sanaa digging through my clothes, finding the envelope, opening it, and pocketing the cash. My hands trembled. I didn't know whether to feel angry, heartbroken, or betrayed. I wanted to run to Dad and scream, but I knew I needed to do this carefully. I copied the video to a USB and waited for the right moment. That evening, we were having dinner. Dad was talking about his work. Sanaa was smiling, acting like nothing had happened. I sat there in silence, barely touching my food. "Is something wrong, Ayan?" Dad asked. I looked at him, then at her. "I need to show you something," I said, standing up and retrieving the USB. I plugged it into the TV. As the video played, the room fell into a haunting silence. Sanaa's face turned pale. Dad didn't say a word. His eyes widened, then darkened. The video ended. No one moved. Sanaa tried to speak. But she had nothing. No excuse. No apology. Just fear. Dad stood up slowly and looked at her. His voice was low but sharp. "How long has this been going on?" She stammered. "It was just once, just now. I needed to buy something." "Don't lie," I said, finally breaking my silence. This was the second time. She looked at me like I had betrayed her, as if I was the criminal. Dad sat down, his hands covering his face. He looked tired, like he had aged years in those few minutes. "Ayan," he said softly, "go to your room." I obeyed, but my heart was pounding. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to know what would happen next. From my room, I could hear them arguing, her crying, him yelling, both blaming each other. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel victorious. Just sadness. My dad had tried to rebuild his life. I had tried to accept a new mother. And this is where it led us. The next morning, Sana was gone. Her clothes, her bags, everything. Dad didn't say anything as we ate breakfast. He just patted my shoulder and said, "I'm sorry, son, for everything." I nodded, but inside, something had shifted. I wasn't a little boy anymore. I had learned something powerful. That truth has a price, but silence costs even more. And sometimes, to protect your home, you have to speak up, even if it hurts. The silence in our house after Sana left was almost deafening. It was like everything had paused, our routines, our laughter, our sense of normal. My dad moved through the days like a man carrying invisible weights. He woke up early, made breakfast, drove me to school, came home, worked, but hardly spoke. And I kept wondering if I had done the right thing. She was gone because of me. Maybe if I hadn't shown him the video, maybe if I had just talked to her privately. But then I reminded myself, she stole from me. She lied. She betrayed the trust of the house she wanted to call her own. Still, I hated how broken my dad looked. One evening, as we sat in front of the TV, not really watching anything, I finally asked, "Do you miss her?" He looked at me, surprised by the question, and sighed. I missed the version of her I thought was real. That hit me hard. I understood then that grown-ups could be just as vulnerable to pain as kids. "You did the right thing," he said after a pause. "I'm proud of you." That one sentence lifted a heavy burden from my chest. But the days ahead weren't easy. Word spread among our relatives that Sana had left. No one knew the real reason, of course. And Dad didn't want to tell them. "What will we say?" I asked him once. He shrugged. Just that it didn't work out. But I could see it in his eyes. He wanted to scream the truth too. He wanted people to know he wasn't at fault. But for some reason, he chose silence. Maybe to protect her. Maybe to protect me. At school, Samir kept asking me if everything was okay. He was the only one who knew what had happened. "So, she just took the money and walked away?" he asked one day. "No," I replied. "She got caught. And then she had to leave." He shook his head in disbelief. "Man, your life is like a movie." I forced a smile, but inside, I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a boy who had been forced to grow up too fast. A few weeks later, I noticed my dad had started drinking tea alone on the balcony again. The same spot he used to sit with my mom. He had stopped sitting there after Sana moved in, maybe because she didn't like the cold breeze or the sound of traffic. But now he was back there every evening, staring into the distance. One night, I brought him a cup of tea and sat beside him. We didn't talk for a long time. Then he said, "You know what hurts the most?" I shook my head. That she didn't even say goodbye. She just left a note saying she was sorry, but she didn't even say it to my face. "She didn't deserve you," I said, not really knowing if that was the right thing to say. But he nodded. Maybe. Or maybe I just didn't see what I needed to see. I could tell he blamed himself. He thought he'd failed both me and himself. "You were trying to give me a mother," I said quietly. "You thought it would help. And maybe it would have, if it was the right person." That was the first time I saw tears in his eyes. "You've always been too mature for your age, Ayan." He ruffled my hair, like he used to when I was younger. "Your mom would be proud." Those words stayed with me for days. I had almost forgotten what it felt like to talk about my real mom. Her memory had become a distant shadow, hidden behind the noise of the present. But now, I wanted to remember her more. I started looking at her old photos again. The ones where she was smiling with me in her arms. The ones where we were at the beach, at my school function, at the park. I missed her. Deeply. I realized that no one could fill that gap. Not even someone as beautiful and graceful as Sana pretended to be. One day, while cleaning the storeroom, I found a box labeled Mom's Things. It was filled with her journals, her favorite books, and a small pouch that had my baby bracelet in it. I showed it to my dad, and for the first time in months, I saw a real smile on his face. "She kept everything," he whispered. "She really loved being your mother." That night, we sat together and read some of her old journal entries. Most of them were about me, my first steps, my first words, how I used to refuse to sleep without my teddy bear. We laughed, we cried, and something began to heal between us. Sana's betrayal had left a scar, but it also forced us to reconnect with what truly mattered, each other. However, the world didn't stop turning. A few weeks later, Sana's brother showed up at our door. I recognized him from the wedding. He looked nervous, ashamed even. "I came to apologize," he said, "for what my sister did." My dad invited him in, and I stood in the corner, watching. She told us what happened. She's staying at my place now. She's not doing well. She didn't care about how we were doing, I snapped. I couldn't help it. I was still angry. She stole from me. Twice. He nodded. I know. She confessed. She said she was desperate. She didn't want to ask your dad for money again, so she did what she did. Desperate people ask for help, I said. They don't sneak into kids' drawers. My dad held up a hand. It's okay, Ayan. He turned to the man. What do you want from us? Nothing, he replied. Just forgiveness. If not now, then maybe someday. After he left, I asked Dad, do you forgive her? He sighed. I don't know, but I don't want to carry hate either. I didn't know if I could forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I understood what my dad meant. Holding on to anger only burns your own heart. Life slowly returned to something like normal. I started focusing on school again. Dad seemed lighter, more present. We started having movie nights again, something we hadn't done since before Sanaa came. We didn't talk about her anymore. It was like we had closed that chapter and locked the book. But deep down, I knew I'd never forget what happened. It was a lesson that would shape me for life. People can wear masks, even those closest to you. And sometimes doing the right thing feels horrible, but it's still right. I started writing in a journal, like my mom did. I called it the Truth Diaries. In it, I wrote everything I felt, about losing my mom, about Sanaa, about that day I confronted her. Writing helped. It gave me peace. I think it also helped me let go. Months passed. My birthday came. I didn't expect much, but Dad surprised me with a simple cake, a framed picture of me and my mom, and a new smartwatch, the one I had been saving up for before Sanaa stole the money. I looked at him in surprise. You remembered? He smiled. Of course. And I'm proud of how you handled everything. We sat there, just the two of us, and cut the cake. It wasn't a big party, but it was perfect. It was honest. And in that moment, I realized something beautiful. We didn't need a full house to feel whole. We just needed trust and love, and we had both. That night, I wrote in my journal, truth broke our family apart. But it also rebuilt the part that mattered most, me and Dad. We may be just two people in a small apartment now, but together we're enough. As months went by, life slowly started settling into a new rhythm. The memories of Sanaa and everything that happened still lingered, but they no longer had the same sting. I had begun to understand that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It just means learning how to carry the pain without letting it consume you. My dad and I grew closer than ever. We started sharing small routines, brushing our teeth at the same time, cooking on Sundays, watching quiz shows, and shouting the answers like we were contestants ourselves. Those ordinary things became our bond, our comfort. I could tell he was trying harder now. Maybe he felt guilty for letting someone like Sanaa into our lives, but he never said it out loud. Instead, he showed it, in his patience, his sudden hugs, the way he smiled when I talked about my day. One day, he surprised me with something unexpected. I've enrolled us in a weekend photography class, he said. What? I laughed. Why? He shrugged. Your mom loved photography. Thought it'd be nice to learn together. And just like that, another connection to my mom was born. We spent weekends capturing little details of the world, flowers, birds, city lights, even the tea steaming from our cups. It was beautiful in a quiet kind of way. And during those classes, we met people. Interesting, kind, warm people. One of them was Mrs. Reyna, a widow who taught art at a local school. She always wore bright colors and spoke with a musical tone. She and my dad started talking more, especially after class. At first, I didn't think much of it. But then I noticed they'd stay back even after others left, laughing over silly things. One day, my dad asked, would it be okay if I invited Reyna for dinner sometime? The question hit me in the gut. I didn't know how to respond. The memories of Sanaa came flooding back. What if it happened again? What if he got hurt again? What if I got hurt again? I looked at him and saw the hesitation in his eyes. He wasn't trying to replace my mom. He was just trying to live. I nodded slowly. Okay, I whispered. Just take it slow. He smiled, that same soft smile he had when I was a baby. Always. The night Reyna came for dinner, I watched everything. How she greeted me, how she spoke to my dad, how she offered to help with dishes without acting like it was her right. She was different. Genuine. I didn't want to admit it, but I liked her. After she left, I told Dad, she seems okay. He chuckled. That's high praise coming from you. I rolled my eyes but smiled. Just don't let her near my pocket money. He laughed, and for the first time, the joke didn't sting. It felt like a scar I could finally touch without pain. Meanwhile, things at school improved too. I focused more on my studies, started playing cricket again during recess, and even won a speech competition. Samir remained my best friend through it all, never once making me feel weird for what I'd gone through. "You're like a grown-up in a kid's body," he once said. "You've seen stuff most of us haven't." "I guess," I shrugged. "But I'd trade it all just to have a normal life." "No one has a normal life, Ayan," he said. "They just pretend better." That stuck with me. Over time, I noticed something else too. I had become stronger. Not in the physical sense, but inside. I wasn't afraid to speak up anymore. I wasn't afraid of truth. I started helping other kids too, especially those who struggled silently. I joined the school's peer support group and shared my story in one of our meetings. It was scary at first, but as I spoke, I could see the nods, the understanding in their eyes. I wasn't alone. None of us were. And slowly, I found purpose in that. At home, Raina became a regular visitor. She never pushed boundaries. She respected our space. One afternoon, she brought over her daughter, Mira, who was just a year older than me. I expected awkwardness, but Mira was easy to talk to. She loved books, played chess, and had a sarcastic sense of humor that weirdly matched mine. We clicked instantly. Soon, she started joining us on walks, helping with dinner, even bringing over board games. My dad watched all this with a quiet smile, but he never rushed anything. He asked me one evening, "Are you okay with all this?" I nodded. "Yeah, she's cool." He looked relieved. "I want to do this right this time. No secrets. No lies." "Good," I said. "Because the moment she touches my drawer, I'm calling the cops." We both burst out laughing. It felt good. Free. As months passed, our little world transformed into something healthier, happier. The house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt balanced. One evening, Dad sat me down and said, "I've been thinking about something." I looked at him, a bit nervous. "What?" "Raina and I, we're not rushing anything. But we're thinking of getting engaged. Just engaged for now. Only if you're okay." I stared at him, processing it. The old fear crept up, but then I looked around. The house was clean, calm, full of laughter. Raina had never once overstepped. Mira had become like a friend. And most importantly, my dad was smiling again, not just with his face, but with his heart. "Okay," I said after a pause. "But can I pick the cake for the engagement?" He laughed and hugged me tight. "Deal." The engagement was a simple affair, just a few friends, some cousins, nothing flashy. No one wore fake smiles or forced conversations. It was real, warm, and I felt safe. That night, as I stood looking at the stars, I remembered my mom. I whispered, "I hope you're watching. We're doing okay now." A soft breeze brushed my face, and for a moment, I felt like she was there, smiling down at us. Life had taken me through a storm, but now the skies were clear. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready to move forward, not with fear, but with hope. The pocket money I once cried over had been returned 100 times in love, trust, and new beginnings. I was no longer just a boy with a broken past. I was a boy with a healing future.